Hi students, so here I comes to help you to revise the chapter Coordinate Geometry of class 10. Okay, so we can move to our chapter. In the first section we are just defining the XY plane. You already learned that in class 9, but it's a basic concept of coordinate geometry, so we can quickly revise that section. Okay, so here is the XY plane, or here we have x-axis and y-axis. Then we already learned what are the quadrants or quadrants of an XY plane. How many quadrants does an XY plane has? Here we have first quadrant, second quadrant, third quadrant and fourth quadrant. So an XY plane has 4 quadrants and each quadrant have a speciality. Here is the speciality. What does it means? That is, if we consider any point in the first quadrant, we have both coordinates as positive, or if we consider any point on the first quadrant, the x coordinate and y coordinate will be positive. Okay, then what about the second quadrant? That means if we consider any point in second quadrant, then first coordinate, that is x coordinate, will be negative and y coordinate will be positive. Then similar way we can consider third quadrant, both are negative. Fourth quadrant, x will be positive and y will be negative. You want to notice that because that is very important thing, and if you don't have any idea regarding that, we can't able to attend the questions properly in our 10th class. And we have some more topics related to coordinate geometry. That is, if you consider any point on y-axis, what will be its speciality? If you have any point on y-axis, yes, its x coordinate will be 0. Okay, so similar way, can you say what about the speciality of that? Is it will be in the form x coordinate will be 0, so that will be of the form 0a, or we can say it as 0b or 0, then y coordinate can change. Then what will be the point of x-axis? So all the point on x-axis have 0 y coordinate. So it will be of the form a0 or b0, etc. Okay, so just remember about that because that is some basic concepts related to coordinate geometry. We want to use it to solve some problems. Okay, so we can move to our section, and in this section of class 10 we have 2 subtopics. That is, first one is distance formula and second one is section formula. Okay, so these are the 2 topics we are discussing all in this chapter, and we are doing some problems associated with distance formula and a section formula. Okay, so first is distance formula. Then we consider a point and another point. And we know, if you consider any point on xy plane or Cartesian plane, it possesses x coordinate and y coordinate. Okay, so we give this point as x1, y1, that is x coordinate as x1 and y coordinate as y1. Then we consider this point as x2, y2, and we can name it as also as a and b. And if you join these 2 points, or if you want to find out the distance between these 2 points, in such situation we are using distance formula. That is, if you want to find out the distance between these 2 points, and if you have to find out the length of this line AB, in such situations we are using distance formula. And what is distance formula? Note down, distance formula D is equal to x2 minus root of x2 minus x1 all square plus y2 minus y1 all square if the points are x1, y1 and x2, y2. Is there any problem to rewrite it as root of x1 minus x2 all square? Is there any problem? No, because if 2 minus 3 all square and 3 minus 2 all square are same. Okay, so you can rewrite it also as x1 minus x2 all square plus y1 minus y2 all square. There is no problem. Okay, so note down the distance formula. Distance formula, that is distance between any 2 points x1, y1 and x2, y2 can be find out using the distance formula. D is equal to root of x2 minus x1 all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. Note down in. Then we are moving to do a problem using this formula. Here we have 2 points, 1, 2 and 4, 6. If the question is to find out the distance between these 2 points or the length of the line joining these 2 points, what will be the conclusion? The only conclusion is to find out that distance using distance formula. So if you have any questions directly or indirectly, and if the aim is to find the distance, first you note down the distance formula. What is distance formula? Root of x2 minus x1 all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. Answer is a trick. Just use your pencils or note down in your notebook. What is x1, y1? So here just write with your pencil x1 and y1. Okay, then note down it as x2, y2. Otherwise, there will be some mistakes if you substitute the value in your equation. So, note down it as x1, y1, or you can choose this also as x1, y1. First, you just note down first point as x1, y1 and second point as x2, y2. Okay? Then you have to substitute, you can substitute those values in our equation. Then what will be the answer? Is equal to root of x2 minus x1. We have the value of x2 and we have the value of x1. So, what will be the answer? 4 minus 1. Okay. So, 4 minus 1 all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. y2 and y1 are given. So, what will be the value? 6 minus 2 all square. So, 6 minus 2 all square is equal to root of, what is 4 minus 1 all square? That is 3 square. And what is 3 square? That is simply 9. So, I write it as 9 plus 6 minus 2 all square. What is 6 minus 2 all square? It is 4. So, 4 square is 16. So, I write it as 16. Then here we have root 9 plus 16. So, what is root of 9 plus 16? 9 plus 16 is 25. So, root of 25. What is the square root of 25? Yes, 25. Root of 25 is 5. So, the distance is 5 units. So, we got the distance between these 2 points, or if the length of AB. Okay, clear? Then you just note it down in your notebook, the problem or the application of distance formula. It's a direct question, but you can ask different types of question that the main intention is to find the distance. I already told you, if you have any situations like to find out the length or the distance, you apply distance formula. Okay, then we are moving to our next problem. Here we have 3 points A, B and C are the vertices of triangle ABC. Actually, this question is a question from your CBSE board exam question paper. Okay, then triangle ABC is dash type of triangle. Which type of triangle? We have already discussed about several types of triangles. Okay, according to their sides and according to their angles. And here we need to find out which type of triangle was it. Here we have the relation connecting sides, because we only know about distance formula if you have the coordinates. Okay, then the question is to find the type of triangle. So, what will be the aim, or what is the next step? First, you just find out the length of each side. How will you find length of each side? Here I am going to consider just vertices as A, B and C. And we have the coordinates. A is equal to 4 minus 2, B as 7 minus 2 and C as 7, 9. Okay, so our aim is to find out the length of all of the, length of the triangle, lengths of the sides of the triangle. Okay, by finding that we can identify whether it is equilateral, whether it is isosceles, okay, whether it is scalene, or we can find whether it is a right angle to triangle. How will you find out, or how will you check whether it is right angle to triangle? We have no angle, we have no connection related to angle. Then how will you find, how will you check whether it is a right triangle with the help of sides? Yes, there is a relation connecting the sides of right triangle, and that is Pythagoras theorem. So, if this triangle satisfies Pythagoras theorem, we can prove that it is a right triangle triangle. So, first aim is find the sides of the triangle. Okay, so how will you find out the side AB? AB is equal to root of x2 minus x1 all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. Okay, then here we have side, then we are just substituting the value a as x1 y1 and substitute the value b as x2 y2. Okay, so what will be the value? Root of x2 minus x1 all square. What is x2 minus x1 all square? Here we have 7 and here we have 4. So 7 minus 4 all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. What is y2? Minus 2 minus 2. Okay, minus 2 minus 2 all square, which is equal to root of 7 minus 4 all square. What is 7 minus 4 all square? 7 minus 4 all square is 3 square and is 9. Okay, 9 square plus root of 2 minus 2. Here comes two negatives together. So it will be, if the sign it occurs like this, minus of minus 2. Then this will be plus. So minus 2 plus 2. Okay, minus becomes their positive. So minus 2 minus 2 becomes minus 2 plus 2 and that will be equal to 0. Clear? So here it will become equal to 0. So what will be the answer? AB is equal to root 9 square. That is simply 9. Clear? By the same way, you can find BC and which is the next side, then you can find AC. So, if you have the lengths AB, BC and AC and if you got the conclusion that AB is equal to BC is equal to AC. If this is your conclusion, what will be the result? This triangle is an equilateral triangle, and if you have only two equal sides, that is if you have AB equal to BC but it is not equal to AC, and AB equal to AC and it is not equal to BC, that is if you have only two equal sides, then what will be your conclusion? Yes, if you have two equal sides, what will be the conclusion? That triangle will be an isosceles triangle. And if you have three different sides, check whether it is a right angled triangle also. How will you check whether it is a right angled triangle? Then find out, we already have AB, BC and AC. Then to check whether it is a right angled triangle, check find AB square, BC square and AC square. Okay, so if you possess values of AB square, BC square and AC square, and if it is satisfies Pythagoras theorem, then we can conclude that it is a right angled triangle. Okay, so the main intention or main aim is to find the triangle is which type of triangle. So the first step is want to do is what? To find the length of all the sides. Okay, then after that we can conclude that it is not an equilateral triangle, it is not an isosceles triangle. Then move on to the Pythagoras theorem, that is to find out the squares of all the sides. Then after that, even though that is also not satisfied, we can conclude it as it is not a right angled triangle or equilateral triangle or isosceles triangle. Okay, so that's a work for you. Check whether it is which type of triangle. Okay, so that's all about that question. So we discuss about the triangle. Then what about some quadrilateral? That is if you have some four vertices, that if you have A as x1 y1, then B as x2 y2, then C as x3 y3 and D as x4 y4. Okay, if you have four vertices and the question is check whether if you join all these four vertices, which type of quadrilateral you obtain. How will you find that? Here also we just find out AB, BC, AC and CD. Okay, so you just find out all the sides and there is some peculiarities. You know about square. Okay, so if you have four equal sides and equal diagonal. So just find out all the four sides and about the diagonals also. So by concluding that property, or the property of square, property of rectangle, property of parallelogram, you can identify whether it is a square, it is a rectangle, or it is a parallelogram. So if you have four vertices, find out all the letters, that is which are the combinations AB, then BC, then CD, then AD, then AC. So like that you can find all these 6 combinations, okay. Then after that you will get a conclusion, or you will understood that whether it is a square, it is a rectangle, it is a parallelogram, or it is a rhombus, etc. Okay, so to check whether the quadrilateral is a rectangle, square, parallelogram, the same way you can check whether which type of quadrilateral was that. That's also an important question in your board examination. Then here is find a point on x-axis which is equidistant from the points 2, -2 and -4, 2. Here we have a point on x-axis. We already discussed the point on x-axis. What is the speciality of point on x-axis? Yes, its y coordinate will be 0. Y coordinate will be 0 if this point on x-axis. And here we have a point on x-axis. So which is in the form A0. So we consider that point as A0. Can I rename it as P? So the point on x-axis can be written as P, and its x coordinate is equal to A and y coordinate is always equal to 0. And here we have 2 points, and those 2 points are equidistant from the point P. Okay, so we can name these 2 points as A and B. So I label A here and B here. So A is equal to 2 minus 2. And B is -4, 2. And in the question it is given that these 2 points are equidistant. What does that term equidistant means? That is, this if we join P with the A, this PA is equal to this PB. So, equidistant problem. That is also a repeated question. Okay, so how will you do this problem? PA is equal to PB. So write down that conclusion first. That is, PA is equal to PB. And how will you find out PA? PA means the distance between the point P and A. How will you find that? Using distance formula. And PB is also the distance between the points P and B. Then note down the conclusion. While looking at PA, we can consider it as x1, y1 and it is x2, y2. So can you substitute that formula into our distance formula? So it becomes root of x2 minus x1 all square. That is 2 minus a all square. 2 minus a all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. That is -2 minus 0 all square. What is that? -2 minus 0 is -2 square itself. Okay, we write it as -2 square, which is equal to root of PB. That is the distance between P and B. So while considering PB, I already take P as x1, y1. So we can take it as x2, y2. So y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. Okay. So x2 minus x1 all square becomes -4 minus a all square plus y2 minus y1 all square. That is 2 minus 0 all square. That's also equal to 2 square. Okay. So here in both sides we have square root. How will you eliminate that square root? Yes, squaring both sides. If you square both sides, there is no problem. Okay. If we just want to equate both the LHS and RHS becomes equal. So just squaring, we are going to eliminate that square root. So what is the conclusion? 2 minus a all square plus -2 all square. -2 all square is 4, which is equal to root of 4 minus a all square. That square is also eliminated. So -4 minus a all square plus 2 square is 4. Then we can solve. We know how to solve. That's actually it is a simple equation. So you can solve that problem and just find out the value A. So if you got the value A, what is our question? the point on x-axis. And which is the point on x-axis? A0. By solving this, we get the value of A and just substitute that value here. So that is A0 is the point on that x-axis. Similar way, you can ask if the point is on y-axis. So which is in the form 0, y. So in that way, you can do that problem also. Okay. Then we are moving to our next section, that is section formula. That is our last section, and the section formula is the second section of our chapter, coordinate geometry. And when we use section formula, that is we are going to discuss here. Here we have a line. Okay. Then here we have one endpoint and we took it as x1, y1. And here we have another endpoint, that is x2, y2. And if it is splitted by, or it is divided into two parts, this point divides this line into two parts. That may be equal, that may be unequal. Okay, we consider it as two parts. Then that parts is divided into ratio m1 is to m2. Okay, this point divides this line in the ratio m1 is to m2. Then this point can be find out, or these coordinates of that point can be find out using the section formula. That is the aim of that section formula. Okay, so the section formula is m1 x2 plus m2 x1 by m1 plus m2 is the x coordinate of this point. If the points are x1 y1, x2 y2, and the ratio we divide this point is m1 and m2, the x coordinate is here. And the y coordinate is m1 y2 plus m2 y1 by m1 plus m2. So by finding these points, we can find out the x coordinate and y coordinate of this point. And if you consider this point as P, then P is equal to this coordinate. Okay, so I thought you understood the use of section formula, or where you use this section formula. Clear? So we can move to our next slide. That is a question: in which quadrant lies the point which divides the line segment joining the point 8, -9 and 2, 3 in the ratio 1 is to 2 internally? Okay, so here we have 2 points. Okay, then here we have 2 points, 8, -9 and 2, 3. And we are dividing this line in the ratio 1 is to 2. Then the question is, this point, which quadrant this point will lies? Okay, how will you identify the point, or how will you identify that point in which quadrant? We already discussed that in our first slide. If that point in first quadrant, the x coordinate and y coordinate will be positive, and if the point is in second quadrant, x coordinate will be negative and y coordinate will be positive. And if the point in third quadrant, both points will be negative, and if it is in last quadrant or fourth quadrant, x coordinate will be positive and y coordinate will be negative. So by finding that point, it is very easy to check whether that point is in which quadrant. Okay, so our aim is to find out that point. And how will you find out that point? How will you find out this point? We have two endpoints and we have the ratio of that the point divides that line. Then how will you find out that point? So there we use the section formula. And here we have x1 y1, and x2 y2. Also we have m1 and m2. So we have our section formula. Let me denote that point as P. So P is equal to m1 m2 x1 plus m1 x2 by m1 plus m2, then m2 y1 plus m1 y2 m1 y2 plus m2 y1 by m1 plus m2. Okay, so just substitute that formula and find out the answer. So finding that, we can find out the point, and after checking the signs of that x coordinate and y coordinate, we can identify whether it is in first, second, third or fourth quadrant. So that is very easy, and it's also a question from your board examination. Okay, then next we are moving to our next section, that is midpoint. Okay, this is a subtopic relating to section formula, that is the midpoint. Okay, I consider the here as the midpoint. And that midpoint of a line, what will be the ratio, or how that midpoint divides that line? That's always equal, in equal ratio. That is, here we have 1 and here is also we have 1. That is, M1 and M2 will be 1. Then how will you find out this point? I consider this point as x1, y1 and x2, y2. So while applying section formula in to find out the midpoint, how will the midpoint will comes? M1 is equal to M2 is equal to 1. So the midpoint will always equal to x1 plus x2 by 2 and y1 plus y2 by 2. Okay, so that is very easy formula then compared to section formula. So if the question, if there is a requirement to find out the midpoint of any line, you just find out the midpoint using the midpoint formula. Okay, that's also another version of our section formula. Then the next aim or the next thing we want to know in this chapter is to find out the centroid. Okay, here we have a triangle, and when will this centroid comes? By joining all the medians, and that point is called the centroid. And if there is a requirement to find out the centroid of a triangle, we have a triangle with vertices x1, y1, x2, y2 and x3, y3, and if the question is to find out the centroid of the triangle, the only thing you need to do is x1 plus x2 plus x3 by 3, then y1 plus y2 plus y3 by 3. Okay, so that is in this way you can find the centroid of this triangle. Please note down all formulas regarding the coordinate geometry and the basic concepts of coordinate geometry, that is regarding the first, second, third, fourth quadrants, and the points are on x-axis, y-axis, and if there is parallel lines, then what about the speciality of their x-coordinate and their y-coordinates. So that basic concepts are very important while you are doing each problems of coordinate geometry. So that's all about our chapter.